Hello everyone. I'm here to play an example game and explain everything I possibly can while I do. I apologize if you hear any loud noises during this. They're replacing the roof of my building and I'm on the top floor. I'll start by going over the basic mechanics of the game, then the screen and the basics of the cards, and then I'll actually play the game. This is going to be a reasonably in-depth explanation, so buckle up. Oh hey, there goes the bouncing DVD logo. Okay, for starters, this is a stack-based card game with unlimited potential board size, much like Magic the Gathering. There is mana management, you can play at instant speed, and there are no arbitrary limitations on the board to try to make it look better on a phone screen. There are a few major differences, though, that make this game unique. For one, mana is provided by your crew, and you have to choose whether to use them to provide mana to cast spells or to attack or do other things with. 2, the game happens in 2 distinct phases. There's a ship phase, where crew can only attack ships indirectly with spells or using their ship's cannons, unless they can fly. When it transitions to the crew phase after the game has progressed enough, the crew can attack normally, as long as they're equipped. So the ship phase acts as sort of a build-up phase, unless you want to go straight at your opponent's face and try to win right away, which, since one of these decks that I have built as mono red, is exactly what they'll be trying to do. Because they want to burn down the opponent pretty much. If it hits the crew phase, they do a lot less damage. Anyway, as I mentioned the ships, everything in this game revolves around the ships. It's your life total, controls the colors you can put in your deck, and the amount of each card type you can put in your deck, as well as how much damage you deal and take during the ship phase. I'll go here into the deck builder real quick to look at the ships. So these are various color combinations of ships and what they can do. So you can only use colors that are in your deck that share a color with your ships, unless you use a colorless ship, in which case you can use all 5 colors. There's a special color that is silver, which can be used in any deck. The attributes are HP, pretty self-explanatory. Attack is the amount of damage that it does when using a cannon, so that is during ship phase exclusively. That damage is reduced by a ship's speed. So for instance, this one has a speed of 0, which wouldn't reduce anything, whereas other ships might reduce the entire amount of damage. The hand is the maximum hand size. It does not affect the starting hand, no matter what you start with 7 cards, unless your maximum hand size is smaller than 7, which can happen if you mulligan and choose to get rid of your hand size. The draws per turn are here as well. If it ends on 0.5, that means you draw 2 cards every other turn, and 1 card in between. The space is the amount of board space you have. Different crew and different items take up a different amount of space on the board. A lot of them take no space. And these crew and spells, I'm not actually sure that these will be used in the end, but they are intended to limit the amount of each thing that you can put in a deck. Not really sure on that, not sure how it'll go. Now, unlike other card games, there are no real distinct phases other than the turns and the ship and crew phase in this game. So that means there's no main phase, end step, draw step, all of those. You can draw a card at any point that you can take an action. Same with declaring attack, playing a card. You can take all your actions in any order you want. Your opponent, on the other hand, they can play at instant speed, but only in response to you declaring an action. Since there are no phases, you can't wait until a specific point and cast a card there. So you can't say, I cast this at your end step. You can only cast instant speed in response to something else, to a different action. Now I'll actually move to the game screen. This is modeled after old Game Boy style card games, right? There's not a lot of screen space there. This is pretty low resolution, as the Game Boy was, though it is a much larger resolution than the Game Boy. So the screen is only 480 by 270. Because of that, information gets crammed in there. Not everything can fit on the screen at once. So, due to that, you use the arrow keys, the right thumbstick, WASD, or edge movement to pan around the battlefield to be able to see all of the cards. The opponent's hand is displayed on top. We can see it because for this game we're playing both sides. Then you have the actual battlefield here, which there will be a row for the opponent and a row for, well, multiple rows for the opponent and for yourself. And then the player hand down at the bottom. The HUDs are at the top and bottom of the screen, and they show when you hover your mouse over those areas or when you press Y on the controller. They disappear automatically after a time unless you're using a controller, in which case you have to press a button to get rid of them. When things change on the HUD, such as losing life or using one of your turn plays for a crew, the animations and numbers will still show without the HUD being hovered, so you don't have to hover it every time, and you'll miss them. The HUD shows the ship attributes up here. Like with the card, you can hover over them to see a more detailed explanation of what they do. Mana is the maximum potential mana that you have to be used. This ship phase is really, it's where the end button shows up, but it shows you the progress to determine when you're going to transition to ship phase. I really intend on at some point putting an indicator of some sort there that will let you know when you're getting close. The number of crew you can play per turn. The HP, that's self-explanatory. The number of card draws you have left this turn. Other effects, this is where things like you play a channeled card, which lets you play effects over multiple turns. They will show up here. And then the deck and discard piles, where you click the deck to draw a card. The top right corner is where messages will appear over top of everything else to tell you what's happening or why things are waiting. And if there's a stack, it'll appear further to the right and push the messages a bit to the left. The stack can be hovered to see the relevant card or effect on the stack, as can everything in the HUDs and everything on the cards. When you select or hover the card, it shows the shorthand text for their abilities. When you're in mini mode, instead of the card art, this replaces it. And you can see a detailed explanation on there, which makes a lot more sense than the shorthand until you pick up the shorthand. So when this enters the battlefield, deal 1 damage to any target. Also, you can play with a mini version of the card or the full-size version of the card, but not much of the full-size version can fit on the screen, so I prefer playing with the mini version. So, each card has a number of attributes, as you can see. The top left, in mini mode, is the speed. So normal speed can only be cast when the stack is empty, whereas instant speed can be cast with only with something on the stack. The number next to that is the space that it takes up on the ship deck. So this takes 1, this guy takes 1, this bow takes 0, etc. This is attack, and this is HP. The important thing about HP is that it does not recover between turns, so any damage you deal or heals that you deal are permanent. Here's the ability text. These are the factions, where there are some synergies with them. So each one has several factions. Those aren't necessarily done for every card. Like this guy should probably have some, but he doesn't. The bottom right is the amount of mana that it taps for. Oh wait, I'm not supposed to use tap. When you use it, the amount of mana that it provides. So this is 2 green, this is 1 red, and above that is the card type. This is a spirit, this is a spirit, this is an equipment. It doesn't tap for any mana, or does not provide any mana, so it doesn't have anything down in the bottom right corner other than the equipment. And that is it for the card types. As you can see, they're lightly grayed out if they're unplayable, whereas there's an animated background if they are playable. This one is playable because even though it's the damage crew in the field, if you really want to use it to only damage yourself, you can. Cost 0, well, in the ship phase. Now, I should actually play a game. It might break or be horribly unbalanced, and we're going to see. For starters, this is a terrible hand for green, so we're going to mulligan, and we'll see how mulliganing works in this game. Instead of just losing cards or whatever, you get to pick which attribute you want to be reduced. So in different, like normally green would probably sacrifice some HP because it has a lot, but playing against mono red, we're not going to do that. We're going to sacrifice our attack instead, because we're probably not going to be attacking during ship phase anyway. Okay, now green has some actual cards to play, so we'll try. We will draw, start, red. If green wants, they can respond by playing the snake, because it's an instant speed spell. We will play this. Oh, if you right-click on any ability, you can see what it targets. So this, when this enters the battlefield, it will reduce the cost of Svarog-related equipment just for the end of turn. So we're going to play this our first turn. This discount isn't useful now, but it might be later. So it shows that it'll reduce that Gwendolyn's Spear and that PP7. So we'll play that, and we'll respond with a snake, because why not? It shows that it is affecting those. We can press escape or B at any time to skip the wait, because when there are actions available, it has this mushroom hunting, which is an instant speed 1 cost, so I could now play that heal if I wanted. So that is why it is making us wait. But you can press escape at any time to skip the wait. And then, well, green might just be screwed. Green could be screwed. But we're going to try to show off a little more gameplay, so we're not going to have red harshly control green's mana, as it might do otherwise. So we'll just play this charge beam out on the battlefield. And that's it. We'll end the turn. Now we will draw green, play this spider, which is very useful because it gives 2 mana instead of 1. And we can't play any more crew this turn, so we can't play this Mammon. So all we can do is play that heal. But they refresh themselves per round, not per turn. So these will refresh on my opponent's next turn. So I am going to play this turn and just heal the spider, because I want the spider to be able to stay alive. Again, if red wanted to, it could just absolutely control their mana base, but we're gonna avoid doing that. Since this has a draw value of 1.5, the mono red ship, it draws 2 cards this turn. And we're gonna play these. Oh, I wish I had that instant speed 1 to respond, but alright. This is why we heal the spider, because the ship cat is going to come in and deal 1 damage, and now the spider doesn't die. Then they're going to do it again. And they are out of crew plates. Hello, kitty. Hold on, my cat is coming to sit in my lap. Now, we have these direct damage spells, so yeah, let's actually just take out that spider. We could have saved ourselves some effort, but we are intentionally misplaying to not screw over green too badly, because this was a pretty damn good hand for red, and not at all for green. Now, this is a channel card. We're going to play this. So what happens with a channel card is you pay the mana, and then the mana is tapped for the same number of turns. for a number of turns, but for that same amount of turns, you repeat this effect. So this deals 2 damage to any target. It says 5 there, but clearly I changed it to 4. I should change that text. So you'll be able to use it to deal 2 damage to any target for 4 turns. So this would completely eviscerate green's mana. As I said, green has a terrible draw, and red needs some work in balance anyway. But we're not going to do that because we want to be able to keep playing the game. So we're just going to go straight to this ship's face and deal 2 damage to them. We could equip this, but there's no point because it's only needed when we're outside of ship phase. Now, green continues to not draw anything useful. Green usually wants to start ramping up, but it just drew a bunch of high-cost cards, and that is it. And it can't even attack, because when mulliganing, it reduced its attack to 0. So green is just turbo doomed this game. But we're gonna pretend it's not. Now, see, all 3 of these are still tapped, so that is the drawback. You have up here that slow burn spell, again, to deal damage, but these are still tapped, which is a less of a cost for something like green, which typically has a lot of mana to provide, but for red, that's pretty costly. So we're just going to keep hitting them in the face. Play Rupee Larso. Then we'll play this Cornflower Wraith, which deals 1 damage to anything, and we're going to continue to try to make things as easy on green as possible. But we will attack them, which, since it is still ship phase, we use the ship's cannon, which, since this is mono red, it has the highest attack of any ship, meaning it deals 5 damage every time you attack in ship phase. So we will attack and then end the turn and see if green is going to do anything. No, green is going to continue to only draw extremely high cost cards and not have enough mana to do anything because we killed that spider. Great. This is a terrible example game. I swear, it is not always this horrendously unbalanced. Draw our 2 cards, which is maybe a little strong for mono red, and maybe we shouldn't do that. They don't have any other... Red usually wants to amplify its direct spell damage, but it's not drawing any of those cards either, so it's not really great on either side. We'll just use Smite for 3. Because they get to put up some silly damage numbers if they get enough of the damage out there. Okay, Call of the Pack. That is something that will definitely help green out. It lets them select a random Javana crew with a total mana cost of 3 or less from their deck and put it into the hand, and allows them to play an extra crew this turn. And this gets repeated for 3 turns. So this will get them something that may be playable. But no, green has no luck this game. So, all they get is a spider that they cannot play. Because the other ones are locked down. Now, standing there menacingly will amp up the damage for red, but it can't actually play it. So, we'll just attack. And that should... If we attack again, it should transition it to ship phase. So let's do that. Or to crew phase, out of ship phase. Alright, now we are in the crew phase. We will see that Get Over Here card doesn't actually work at all, and green just continues to get absolutely screwed. This is a terrible example of why you should play this game, but this is more about explaining the functions and how the game works then the actual game balance, which does need a lot of work. I really want to play Aika to see if she works, but since I'm recording this, I'm not going to because she might not work. I only recently fixed her. So, now that we are into the crew phase, let's get out this big, powerful guy. The only one in Red's deck. And play Scarpnick, sure. Then we will equip this to him, so now he can attack. Unless we want to play Gwendolyn's Spear while it's discounted? No. We will just attack for this guy. We'll get this brutal game for green over with. As green just continues to get nothing. Okay. A card that it can play. Let's see if green can chain together some spiders and do something. Can play a PP7. That's not that helpful, but it is a blocker. Well, once it's equipped, which it might not even get the opportunity to do. Because again, red could just wipe out like their entire mana base. But red's being friendly. Alright, we're going to play this to double all ship damage. To both ships, not just one. So that could potentially come back and bite them. But it won't because they're so firmly in control. And green only has 14 HP left, and I believe that they can just kill green this turn, because this would do 8, and then this would do 2 and 2 and 2. So they can just end the game, and they might as well, because this was a terrible game. Now that green, if green got another turn, they would finally have enough power on the board to actually play things. And if they equipped this gun, they'd be able to block really, really effectively. But we're not going to do that. We're just going to end the game. Well, they could block, but they'd have to be blocked by 2, but I don't actually think I made that work yet. The powerful keyword. So we're just going to take the damage and let this brutal, brutal game end. Two, and 2, and 2. And we lose. And that is that. That was a horrible example of the card game from a balance perspective. But hopefully it gives people an indication of how the game plays. Because while balancing will be a work in progress, right? It'll be years before this game comes out, and I'll give it to other people to help balance experienced card game players. Balance will come along the way. But I just wanted to make a video to show people how the game plays, now that it functions enough that you can actually play an entire game without it breaking, which we just did. So that's that. Until next time.